let's do this Steven Crowder thing, shall we? One of the interesting things is that there are right-wing talkers in the media who have built their careers on transphobia, probably inspired by, weird sex pest, deep insecurities that they have. It is an avowed loser for the Republican Party. So it's going to be interesting to watch how these guys stop talking about it. Now, I don't know if Crowder will ever stop talking about it because it seems oddly personal to him. He has a deep attachment to it. And Matt Walsh also won't start because he was nobody before his transphobia became his sine qua non, and he'll be nobody afterwards, and he knows that. And so he will hang on to it for dear life. There will always be a market for these guys. They will always be trying to sort of like poison 16-year-old boys' minds to be transphobic and probably homophobic as well. And hopefully, by the time they get into their early 20s, that will go away. Here is Crowder and his old man sidekick previewing video footage from a kid-friendly drag show in Texas. But it is just listen, and let's be clear. These are just it's a drag show.
Yeah. And this apparently the viewer sent this in, right? So the citizen journalist that Crowder's deploying here.
But let's be clear. The most sort of like drag dressing that most people have seen who watch this show comes from Steven Crowder. So when Crowder does it and walks into a gym and is like, oh, I don't know how to carry this weight. Look at me, I'm dressed as a woman. It's supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
But when it happens in a place in Texas, all of a sudden it's like criminal and it's grooming. This guy, if you want to go on a per kid basis and you want to claim that when a man dresses up as a woman is a groomer, this guy, by that definition, Steven Crowder, is maybe the biggest groomer in the country. Like RuPaul level.
So it's Trans Awareness Week, which is why this is so important. And again, everything, right, is downstream from culture. I've heard people say upstream, but I feel like downstream should make sense. Upstream technically, but downstream, I don't know. They both should work. So what do we have in Texas? Well, there are a lot of things that sort of you think of as
positive. Also, we should just also tell you that is Andrew Breitbart was his calling card. So all of those people came out of that Breitbart thing. They believe that politics is downstream from culture, and this has been their fundamental struggle is to get a hold of culture. The problem
and that's why we have to make sure Dr. Seuss keeps publishing the racist cartoons.
Right. And that's why, to be clear, a list of the top 50 books that are banned in 2021-2022 school year all include anything that involves like diversity, anything about non-white people, anything about gay people, anything that is in any way inconsistent with white cis male ideology, they have been banned. Now, here's the list of all the books that have banned because they are about white cis ideology in the country. Right there. That's the list. That's it. 0. All right, but continue.
Cowboys, you have the Alamo, you have barbecue, and now we are known for the best kid-friendly drag shows in the world, which really just means the Western world, because we're the only ones self-loathing enough to have a bunch of drag queens around our children. That brings us to our newest segment, Kid-Friendly Drag Show of the Week. All right. So, we sent our team to Roanoke, and that happened, and it was gross.
Ew.
Now there was another one in Temple, Texas, at Fajita King. I don't know why that's funny. It's just, I guess it's just funny
Spanish
because
word.
these drag queens are still very low rent.
Fajita queen.
Fajita is
Fajita
Mexicans.
King. Where are you performing? The local fajita place.
Well, these are the people, who they clamor for Instagram followers and status and expensive makeup and sequins. If they could have done better than the Fajita King, they would have.
Yeah. Bennigan's would have been better.
Yes, exactly.
The Fajita King.
Pause it. Where do you think that guy in the white shirt? I can't remember his name.
Gerald.
Oh, Gerald. Where do you think his shows are? Like when he's not performing with Crowder. Do you think he's at some like pretty fancy, or is he at some chuckle hut somewhere that used to be a Fajita King?
I don't think that guy performs. I think he goes home and he's a loser.
Yeah.
Well, afterwards, we'll be moving to O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Yeah, the after party. It's in the stock room.
So we had ours in Roanoke, Texas. This happened in Temple, Fajita King. And here's the thing. The organizers didn't know. If you have kids, they shouldn't be watching right now. And then I want to sort of explain
Nobody
to you
but kids are watching
this
you,
follows
you
lockstep
idiot.
with what happened in Roanoke. And it follows lockstep with what's happening across the country. And this is not an accident. There is a concerted effort to not only indoctrinate your children. Let me set this up this way. You ever see the movie Hook?
Take another.
Peter Pan, but Hook specifically. The goal was to get the children away from their parents. Right? So they would.
Pause it for 1 second. Incidentally, Hook was a variation of Peter Pan. He is using a fantasy show movie to explain the dynamic that a drag show at a Fajita King in Texas is grooming all these people. Again, not one of the people who are performing drag there have exposed people to drag more than this guy himself. Not one. Good.
Yeah.
An accident. There is a concerted effort to not only indoctrinate your children. Let me set this up this way. You ever see the movie Hook? Peter Pan, but Hook specifically. The goal was to get the children away from their parents, right? So they would eventually forget their parents, and then they could be controlled. That's the goal here. It's to create enough distance and separation between what parents
Can you
might want.
pause it?
Pause it, yeah.
This is why Crowder chooses to not have any separation from his father whatsoever. His father will be right behind him, right?
a good
Like
point.
this Hook story is very personal for him. It's validating when he has his father in his life every day.
Sorry, but who's taking the kids to these shows? Is it like the state?
Oh yeah,
Or is
obviously.
it their parents?
No. Obviously, it's Hook taking them to
Yeah,
the
it's
show.
Peter Pan flying
The
them.
parents are taking them. They're experiencing it with the parents. But the parents are also, they're in a hypnotic, they have no idea what they're doing. I saw the sequins. Must take the child to the fajita store to see the drag
Because
show.
I want to alienate religious kids from their religious parents. by
I
basically teach
need
them not
to
be
get
bigots.
the kids to turn away from me, so I will take them to the drag show. Go.
Not an accident. There is a concerted effort to not only indoctrinate your children. Let me set this up this way. You ever see the movie Hook? Peter Pan, but Hook specifically. The goal was to get the children away from their parents, right? So they would eventually forget their parents, and then they could be controlled. That's the goal here. It's to create enough distance and separation between what parents might want for children,
Like take them to a
so
fajita.
that then they can get
whatever.
their claws in young, and then they can
Claws.
petition and lobby CPS. And maybe 5 years down the line, it becomes standard practice that if you do not allow your child to attend drag shows or your child to get on puberty blockers, you lose your kids. This is all designed to put a wedge between parents and their children. If your children are watching, I highly recommend that they do not right now.
Who is getting these puberty blockers for their kids? It's the parents.
I thought it was first grade
It's the
teachers.
parents and the doctors. Like, who is the person that's doing this wedge? Who's calling CPS?
I know why. Crowder feels like if he wanted to dress like a man or someone like him, he would have to be separated from his father. That would create some distance between them.
That's so weird. There's missing this huge part of this whole story, which is like, who is doing this?
He is so freaking like psychologically messed up by just trans people. It really is a weird thing to witness in real time.
And I don't like to always bring up the he's a Canadian card, but like, bro, you're a Canadian that moved to Texas and find Texas not homophobic enough. Like,
Right.
what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Line, it becomes standard practice that if you do not allow your child to attend drag shows or your child to get on puberty blockers, you lose your kids. This is all designed to put a wedge between parents and their children. If your children are watching, I highly recommend that they do not right now. I'll give you a count. 3,
Your
2.
children.
Too late, bro.
Your
Your
room,
adults watch this?
You've already
we
corrupted
received this
them.
from a viewer undercover at the Fajita King with some insider footage of this child-friendly drag show.
Oh, God. Wait. Thank you, Bradley, for cutting before we got to that. That would.
Sorry, I was got worried that you guys wouldn't be able to handle it.
Well, we have kids watch this, and I don't want them to see. Also, don't watch Crowder because he dresses up like a woman. Like, I mean, honestly, the like who like they're all adults. Took the kids there.
Yeah. Like Crowder wants to get in between parents who want to bring their kids up in a culture that's accepting of gay culture.
Exactly.
And he wants to get in the way of that and have the state come
Or
and
you know
stop
what?
that.
It could just be like, this is fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a drag show. It's fun.
Yeah. I mean, I've read, you can read, like, the people get so bamboozled and confused by the drag queen story hour, but if you actually read some of the literature on that, it's interesting in a way that, like, okay, kids are being exposed to stories, but in a different context by someone who's willing to, like, have a concept of play and, like, open your imagination up a little bit. It's different than just a regular, like, teacher teaching you those stories.
And also, like, I just want to point out at the beginning where he says this only happens in Western culture where there are drag shows and men dressing in women's clothes. Not true. True. I'm pretty sure I remember that in Japan there's like a whole genre of theater where men dress and play female roles.
He may want to read about Thailand.
Yeah, I mean
That too.
That's what I was going to say too about Thailand. Is just like one of the most like vibrant like transgender, intersex, like non-binary sex work culture in Thailand. It's anthropologically studied. It's like, and that's very much not a product of the Western world that exists completely.
But of course,
on its own.
to be
Like,
fair,
Yeah.
you don't get any of that in the Southern Hemisphere. Like you do not see any type of like trans
Islamic world.
in let's say Mexico or anywhere in Latin America. I mean, it's absurd. My mother used to go to Mexico when she retired. She would spend months down there and would always. There was a whole culture of essentially drag. I mean, drag is almost like too casual. But
Also, you can look back in like the 40s for like troops on like R&R going to drag shows or performing in drag shows and stuff like that. Like,
who's gonna tell the kids about Bob Hope
Or about
or Milton Berle?
or the musical Hairspray.
Uncle Milty, not Bob Hope. Uncle Milty.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
and it is true, the U.S. military in 2021, U.S. military defends drag show at largest training center as essential to morale. That was 2021. So take it up with the military, Steve.
It's absolutely insane.